the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbing there. Well, the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability is still raising some red flags over the recent reassignment of the Regional Director of Electoral Commission for Ashanti Region, Benjamin Banobio, as the new Director of Electoral Services. Mr. Banobio replaces Dr. Serebour, who is now the Director of Training at the head office of the EC. The subject was raised at IPAC today, chaired by Deputy Chair in charge of Corporate Services, Dr. Bosman Asare. And like you heard Mahdi Jibril there, they say that they've worked. They don't agree with people staying at one place for a very long time. Now, other issues also included the EC's failure to deploy biometric verification devices for the just ended proxy voting exercise. Executive Director of ASEPA, Mensa Thompson, has joined me in studio. Mr. Thompson, grateful for your time of I Will Fight.
Many thanks for having me, Valentina.
Okay, so clearly you have issues with this reassignment or reappointment that is being done by the Electoral Commission. What exactly are your concerns?
Absolutely. We're in election year, and election is managed by the optics. And so people are watching you, trying to find out exactly whether the process are going to be transparent, processes are not going to be rigged in favor of anybody, and that all the activities that you're putting in place in the build up to the elections is one that inures confidence into the system. This midnight appointment into the leadership of the EC raises fundamental issues.
What is midnight about it? So then it means the timing.
The timing.
Okay.
You have 4 months, barely 4 months to the next elections, and you move two EC directors from your two strongholds, from the Ashanti region and from the Eastern region.
Whose stronghold?
The ruling government strongholds.
Okay, so the EC moves people from the
the EC director at the stronghold of the ruling government.
Okay.
First one is the Ashanti region, which is the stronghold of the ruling government, to be the director of electoral services. And if you know and understand what the director of EC's electoral services is going to be doing, he's going to be in charge of all the deployments, in charge of the BVD machines, deployment of men, collation systems, what have you. So it's like he's an arrowhead in terms of the election management. Okay. Then you remember recently there was another appointment, which is the director of IT, which is one Apia Hene, who was seen following the campaign of Dr. Baumia in the Bonohafo region. In fact, he was cited, who records show is a former Tescon patron. Okay. You made him director of IT services. Then you move the director of EC in Ashanti region, come and make him director of electoral services. Then you move the director in another stronghold of yours, Eastern region, come and make her director of research. And if you understand, these are the three key people: research, electoral services, and IT. These are the three people going to man, who are going to handle the core aspect of the elections.
They're the ones manning the registration and all that.
Exactly. And we know the record of these people, especially in Ashanti region. We know what the NPP does with the EC in Ashanti region.
Do you?
Yes, we do.
What do they do?
Yes, we do.
What do they do?
Valentina, it's not everything that we know that we say in public. Okay, but we know what goes on. We know some of the things, and these things.
Why haven't you done anything about it?
And these things, Valentina, and these things is not about. It's not about. It's a culture. Okay, it's a culture, and we've seen it's a culture of how the EC, some of the EC officials, how they help some of these politicians and all that. And it's a relationship thing.
How do they help them?
It's a relationship thing. Valentina, I don't want us to go into the nitty-gritties of that, but I'm saying that.
But we're having a discussion.
Assuming that, let's even dissociate or put the issue of their influence on the election on one side. What about the optics?
Okay.
What what does it speak? Okay, motive. Very, very important in the conversation that we're having. Motive. What does the EC want to engender confidence in the 2024 elections? Because, Valentina, I can assure you, we are taking these elections very, very, very seriously. The kind of eyes that we've opened on these elections, this is not an election we're going to take for granted for every bit of it, and for several reasons of it, especially for what happened in the 2020 and previous elections. And so the EC has a bigger responsibility to bring everybody together, bring everybody around the table, that from now to 7th December, the EC must be very wary that every move it makes will be scrutinized by the general public.
Okay, now
and that move can either improve confidence or reduce confidence. And these things that you're doing, especially this midnight appointment into the top leadership of the EC with people who seem to be people from the stronghold of the ruling government, is something that raises fundamental issues of trust and confidence. And the EC must be wary of these things.
But Dr. Serebour Quaicoe was coming from the Ashanti region.
I said
he was an EC director for the Ashanti region for a long time.
No,
before he came to
Valentina.
I'm coming. I'm following you. It's not about competence as to whether or not they can do the job, but it's about the timing and motive that you have.
Exactly.
So if it had been done, let's say a year
ago,
you wouldn't have had
a year ago. It wouldn't have raised the same level of suspicion as it is raising now. Because, mind you, the EC has a mandate. The EC makes reshuffle.
Yes.
They can make appointment
at any time,
at any
day.
Yeah, at any time they want. Of course, that is not questionable. But I'm saying that the fact that you have a right to do something does not mean that you must not be circumspect when you're doing that thing. So it might be within your powers to do it. But then what does that communicate, especially at this moment? For me, the timing raises serious suspicions, especially at the time when the EC is dealing with the missing of 5 BVD kits, which the EC up to date has still not been able to provide any reasonable response for these, has still not been able to retrieve despite the security at their disposal. The electoral commission chairperson alone work up with about 5 or 10 military men with several police officers. So they have the military and the security service at their disposal, and they are telling me that several months down the line, these machines that were supposedly stolen have not been retrieved. The EC cannot find, the security services have not been able to find where these machines are. These machines evaporated into thin air. So there are a number of things going on, especially at this particular IPAC meeting. It also came to light that the proxy voter transfer that they did, the EC failed to deploy biometric verification devices to the centers.
Why? They don't have the machines?
We don't know.
For what?
We don't know. And so all the proxy transfers were done without any form of biometric data capturing. This is dangerous for our democracy. This is dangerous for the process.
How is it dangerous?
It is dangerous. It is dangerous because, Valentina, if somebody is able to register through this proxy system, is able to get even 100,000 or 200,000 dead people to vote by proxy. The last election, the candidate won with just 250,000 votes. So this is a very serious matter. We do not take very lightly, and this is early days yet. We want to help the EC. We want to support the EC. We want to help the EC to achieve one of the most sane, tranquil elections in the history of this country.
But what?
But for the EC to garner the support of us, from us, for us to be able to help the EC do its job, the EC must be forthcoming, the EC must be circumspect, the EC must be transparent about everything it does from now to the next elections, because we are not going to let things go just like that.
Okay, so I ask you about what the EC is not forthcoming about, but let me go on the phone line and speak to Citizen Atodaze. He's the General Secretary for the Great Consolidated Popular Party, GCPP. Citizen, grateful for your time. You were at IPAC today. What are your concerns or takeaways from today's IPAC meeting?
Good evening, Valentina, and good evening to cherished listeners. I think today's IPAC meeting was very instructive, looking at some of the issues that were raised, particularly regarding transfer of votes, another window that is going to be opened for transfer of votes for inmates of the prisons, and also for students, and also for security personnel.
Okay.
And then also the issue of application for proxy voting. What I call instructive was that looking at CI 127, I mean, after the deliberation, I raised that issue. You see, if you look at CI 127, I think CI 127.3 talks about the processes and who is allowed to be on the special voting list. There was a confusion with regards to transfer of votes and the issue of the special voting. You see, in relation to transfer of votes, which is CI 127.22, it says that besides the usual qualifications that you need to reside at a place more than 12 months or no less than 12 months and all those things, it gives exception to students and to security personnel on special duties. And the definition for special duties is also in the same CI 127.50, Regulation 50. It explains that an officer on special duty is the officer who is on duty on the election day. So, which means that if we are giving any opportunity for security personnel to transfer their votes, and the explanation is that they will be on special duty without we knowing the list of officers who have been named to be on special duty, then that window is moot because you don't even know who would be on special duty or not. But after our deliberation, the Electoral Commission says that they have the list from the security personnel officers that in relation to those who will be on special duty or on duty on the election day. Which for me, if we are coming to an IPAC meeting to discuss this issue, you should have the numbers. That at least these numbers of officers are on the list that were presented by the various security agencies, and they have applied for them to be on the special voting list. This should have been easy, but it became a demand-driven situation in terms of response.
Why the EC was not willing to give you the list, or they didn't really know the number?
No, it was later that we even got to know that they even have the list, because earlier we were arguing on other things. But when I brought up the issue that CI 127 23.4 talks about the processes for somebody to be on the special voting list and does not even need to transfer their vote, because what it says is that if you do not reside even in that constituency, but you have been named that you will be on duty on the election day, you use that to go and apply to be on the special voting list. So when I raised it, then they came and said, okay, so this thing only refers to officers who would be on duty on the election day. And the issue is that, do we know those who will be on duty on the election day? Since we don't know, Then let's wait. Then they said, oh, we know, because they have presented the list. Then we ask, how many people? Because if you have the list, you should know the numbers. And they should have preempted the whole conversation with that already. That the security agencies, they said they met them. So my earlier question was that anytime you are coming to meet us and you say you are going to do something based on a meeting, why can't you provide data? That, okay, you said looks have applied to you, that some students were not captured. You give us data. That looks has presented that over 30,000 students were not able to take part in the transfer of votes because they've just gained admission into schools. So this is the situation. But you don't come and say, looks have told us. Because all these things are costs. And it's time for we, the political parties, to marshal our agents to be there. It also costs for us. So it is very important for us to have a clear understanding on that. But for me, going forward, what I think should be a reform is that any security officer or any security personnel should be on the special voting list. And this probably will not apply for 2024, but beyond 2024, one of the reforms I would push for is that every security personnel should be on the special voting list. The reason being that if in case today they produce a special voting list and we are 4 months to the election, getting closer to the election, some might fall sick, some might even may not even be used because maybe they would have done backups in the list. So some may not even be used. Some might also, we don't know, I mean, touch wood, some may die. So they would have to replace them. If that person that they are going to use to replace is not on the special voting list and is going to be put somewhere beyond where they are constituency, where they registered, what happens to them?
That's a fair
So
point.
for us to avoid any confusion and duplication, all security personnel should undergo that process. So, and it's something that you can easily know, because when you are doing registration, one of the things that they take is that, so that we have a register, political parties have a register where we can verify easily that somebody is an officer or not. Recently, some happened where we saw over 1,000 people who have been transferred from one district to the other. And when we got to know, it was from the special voting list because they were security personnel. We don't want those surprises. If we know you are not on the main day election register, we know. If you're on the special register, we know. Because we don't want a situation where it could happen that somebody in 2020 had been put on a special voter list. This one, are they going to add on, or they are going to create a new special voters list? It is something that we should be all mindful of, so that it is clear. So that is what, going forward, I think we will propose and see whether we can have a consensus on it for us to settle. So but it was also instructive that Dr. Computer, Tanko Computer, said he applied for proxy voting, and he realized that they only asked for the letters and his signature, but there was no biometric confirmation that was done. This caused into question some of the processes that the Electoral Commission keep on saying, that the sanctity of the register integrity, and all those issues. If people are applying for proxy and we cannot even verify to know whether they are the ones who are indeed applying for those proxies, that is problematic. What is the process for Ghanaians living abroad to apply for proxy? How are they doing it? So these are things that going forward we would also want to interrogate. I mean, today we wanted to understand the process, but I mean, some of the explanations that were given, it's something that we need to think through and see the way forward.
Okay, I'm sure the next IPAC meeting may give you those details and all that. Citizen, grateful
Hopefully.
that you joined us. Citizen Atodazi is General Secretary of the GCPP, Great Consolidated Popular Party. Mensa Thompson, Executive Director of ASEPA, is still in studio with me. Mensa, let me wrap up with you. It looks like Citizen Atodazi agrees with you about the absence of the biometric verification on the proxy voting transfer.
We want to know, you see, and again, it raises the question of motive. This is not the first time the EC is doing this exercise. Why this time they did not deploy these machines? And so the EC has promised us at IPAC today that they are going to investigate. So because in fact the commissioners claim they were not aware.
If they are not aware, it means that they deployed it. But as to whether it was used is a different thing.
No, it means they are sleeping on their job. That's what it means.
But if you say you are not aware,
how can you tell us you're not aware?
Proxy going on.
Yes,
you deployed the machines, and you are saying you are not aware. Did you deploy machines?
So again, it also tells you about. You see, that's why we don't want to blow this matter up beyond proportion. We don't want to kill an ant with a sledgehammer. We want to deal with the issues. They've promised us that they are going to investigate the matter, but I think that the other political parties, including the NDC, must take this matter very, very seriously. If possible, request for the list of all the proxy transfers, so an audit will be done. If possible, make sure that the biometric details of these are captured in the. So the AC is going to do a transfer again for special voting and people on special duties, and so they can tie that in with this one, so they can everybody who did a proxy can go back and do what we call verification, so that